is not an accident, and time is not something to be squandered. It is measured, precise, and purposeful. The days do not arrive in chaos, nor do they unfold in arbitrary patterns. There is order to the universe, and with that order comes responsibility. Before you step into a new month, before the calendar page turns to April 1st, you must recognize that the passing of time is not passive. It is not something that merely happens to you. It is something that demands your active participation, your moral effort, your intellectual engagement, and your spiritual awareness. You must understand this. Your life is not just your own. It is tied to generations past and generations yet to come. What you do with today echoes across the chambers of tomorrow. So the way you approach the transition into a new month is no small matter. It is not just another date on a calendar. It is not just another Monday or Friday or weekend. It is the moment that defines momentum. It is the choice that determines character. It is the prayer that can set the tone for your entire trajectory. That's why you must not let 1st April arrive without aligning yourself with something higher. You must not step into the new month without deliberate spiritual preparation. If you walk through the door of April unprepared, you risk bringing the dysfunction of March into the clarity of spring, and that's not wise. That's not responsible. That's not courageous. The world is filled with chaos, and your job fundamentally is to bring order into it, beginning with yourself. To bring order into yourself requires structure, and structure begins with speech. The most foundational form of speech is prayer, not empty ritual, not vague spiritual fluff, but intentional, focused articulation of your deepest beliefs and desires. You do not pray simply to ask for things. You pray to aim. You pray to tell the truth. You pray to remind yourself that your life matters and that you are being watched, not in paranoia, but in purpose. Your words echo in eternity, and your voice shapes your destiny. Pray this before the 1st of April. I will not carry forward what is broken within me if I am able to fix it. That is not just a confession. That is a declaration of war against the chaos that has long tried to bury you. It is a rally cry for the parts of your soul that have fallen asleep. Wake them up. March was long. February was tiring. January was confusing. But April can be the month where you begin to win. Not outwardly, not superficially, not in the eyes of critics, but inwardly, where truth is born, where strength is forged. Pray, clean out my intentions, because your intentions are the blueprints of your actions, and if they are selfish, short-sighted, reactive, or vengeful, they will build a life that crumbles. April is not a time to carry poison in your heart and pretend it's perfume. You cannot spray your dysfunction with fake spirituality and expect it to become a blessing. It must be refined. You must be honest with yourself. What are you chasing? Who are you becoming? What are you avoiding? And why? The prayer before April is not about asking for a comfortable month. It's about asking to be uncomfortable in the right ways, to be stretched in truth, to be disciplined in action, to be unrelenting in pursuit of what is good, even when that pursuit hurts, because it will hurt. It must. Growth does not come from ease. It comes from resistance, pressure, fire. The soul, like gold, must pass through fire to reveal its worth. So pray, burn off what is not gold in me. Remove the dross, strip me of the illusions I've held on to. Illusions like I have time. You don't. Time is running out. That's not pessimistic, it's liberating, because it means you don't have to waste another second pretending to be someone you're not. Pray, give me the courage to act as though my time matters. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Right now. The way you spend today is how you train your brain to live. And if you spend today in anxiety, distraction, bitterness, or laziness, you are training yourself to be that way when the opportunity comes. And you'll miss it. Train me in discipline, because what you think is failure is often just a lack of structure. You're not dumb. You're not incapable. You're unstructured. The body follows a schedule, and the mind follows the body, so train them both. Train your mornings, train your thoughts, train your appetites. You cannot let impulse lead you into April. You must let intention carry you. And then pray. Clean my mind, not just for clarity, but for direction. Because a clear mind without direction is dangerous. You can clearly see the wrong path and still walk down it if you lack conviction. So don't just pray for clarity. Pray for the courage to follow through when the clarity comes. Don't ask for signs if you're not going to obey them. Don't seek answers if you're not willing to adjust when the truth challenges your comfort. And pray. Remove false peace. You know, the kind that comes when you avoid confrontation, when you sweep truth under the rug, when you pretend everything is fine. That is not peace. That is paralysis. And you cannot afford to be paralyzed going into a new month. The longer you pretend, the more you imprison yourself. So pray for the courage to face what you've been avoiding. Pray for confrontation, not with others, but with yourself. Have the confrontation with your laziness, with your arrogance, with your apathy, with your fear. Name it. Call it out. Drag it into the light. Say this in your prayer. Expose what I've hidden from myself. That's where the real work begins. When the lies you've rehearsed for years begin to lose their grip on you. Lies like, I'm not good enough. I can't change. It's too late. Those lies are parasites. They feed on your passivity. They consume your identity. But when you speak the truth, they starve. So pray for truth, but understand this. Truth is costly. When truth comes, comfort leaves. Familiarity disappears. You'll have to leave some patterns behind, some relationships, some habits, some beliefs. But what you gain is worth far more than what you lose. Pray, make me bold enough to rebuild. Because April is not just about renewal, it's about reconstruction. Renewal is internal, but reconstruction is external. You can feel new on the inside and still live in ruins if you're not willing to act. So act. Get up earlier. Delete the distractions. Say no to what weakens you. Set boundaries. Redefine your standards. Rewrite your routines. If you keep living like March, you won't survive May. Pray. Let me outgrow what no longer fits. Sometimes stagnation happens because you're still trying to squeeze into an identity, a job, a circle, or a narrative that you've outgrown. It's okay to grow. It's okay to change. It's okay to become something more, but growth demands grief. You'll grieve the past even when it was dysfunctional, because dysfunction is still familiar. And what is familiar always feels safer than what is unknown. But pray anyway, give me peace in the unknown, not because the unknown is easy, but because it is necessary. You can't walk into April still addicted to validation, still dependent on affirmation, still obsessed with being understood, still afraid to be alone, still addicted to ease, still flirting with mediocrity, still making excuses and expecting miracles. You must pray against the very root of compromise. Say this, I release what compromises my calling. Because everything has a cost. And if you don't sacrifice for your purpose, you will sacrifice your purpose for your comfort. And it's a price too high to pay. So pray this with intensity. Awaken my discipline, inflame my desire for excellence, strengthen my resistance to what weakens me. Because your excellence is not just about ambition, it's about responsibility. People are watching you, not to criticize you, but to follow you. And if you fall asleep at the wheel of your own life, you'll take others down with you. So wake up, pray. Don't let me live asleep. Don't let the repetition of days make you forget how sacred they are. Don't let routine turn into rut. Don't let ritual turn into religion. Make it real. Mean it. Say this before 1st April, I am ready to see the month through the lens of purpose, not pressure. You are not what the world says you are what you choose to become. But becoming takes faith, and faith is not passive, faith is movement. Faith is alignment. Faith is the bridge between clarity and consistency. So pray for faith, not just to believe, but to act. And don't just pray for open doors. Pray for the strength to knock. Pray for the vision to see which doors lead to destiny and which lead to distraction. Pray for discernment. The loudest option is rarely the best one. The easiest route is rarely the right one. You must quiet your spirit long enough to hear the whisper of direction. Don't just pray for breakthrough. Pray for strategy. A breakthrough without strategy is a burden. You must know what to do when the opportunity comes. So pray, equip me, not with applause, not with praise, not with entitlement, but with wisdom, resilience, and integrity. Pray for alignment over applause. Pray for obedience over outcome. Pray for legacy over likes. And then get still, sit in silence, breathe deep. Don't rush, don't run, wait. Wait for that divine moment where the chaos inside you submits to something higher, where your soul is reminded of who you are, where your mind releases the obsession with control, where your spirit finally feels the weight of power that does not come from you but lives in you. That moment, that stillness, that's where the shift begins. You may not feel different, but you are, because prayer is not always about what you see. It's about what is being rearranged beyond your sight. Chains are breaking. Strength is rising. Vision is sharpening. Fear is melting. And though the calendar still says March, your spirit is already in April. And that's where I want to leave you, not with more noise, but with quiet confidence, not with a speech, but with a stirring that leads you to your knees, a stirring that awakens your authority, a stirring that reminds you you are not alone, you are not forgotten, you are not weak, you are chosen, you are called, and you are being prepared for more than you can imagine. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your posture. Let that be your power. And don't wait for the month to change before you do. Speak it now. Live it now. Believe it now. Priscilla Shirer. Before anything can begin rightly, it must begin in order. And not the order that man dictates, but the order that God establishes. You cannot step into a new chapter, a new level, a new dimension with the same scattered mind and divided heart you've been carrying. Before 1st April arrives, there's a call to set things back into divine alignment. Prayer is not just asking God for things. It is the deliberate, intentional act of bringing your life, your thoughts, your motives, your priorities under the covering of heaven's authority. You don't just need a new month. You need a new posture. And that posture begins with surrender. To align your spirit with divine order, you have to first acknowledge the areas that are out of alignment. What are the things you've been tolerating that God never told you to accept? What voices have you given your attention to that have caused confusion rather than clarity? The chaos outside of you is only amplified by the chaos within. And the only way to silence it is to establish again the rule of God in your life. That starts with a quiet heart and a bowed head, not in weakness, but in reverence. Spiritual alignment doesn't happen by accident. It's not automatic just because the calendar turns. You can cross into April physically, but spiritually still be trapped in cycles from last year, and the enemy is hoping you never notice. That you keep grinding, keep moving, keep performing, but never actually pause long enough to recognize that you're misaligned, that your schedule is full, but your soul is dry, that your hands are busy, but your spirit is malnourished. So before anything else shifts, your posture in prayer. Prayer is not just a way to inform God of your needs, it is the way to conform yourself to his will. You pray not to manipulate heaven, but to be molded by it. That kind of prayer transforms your perspective, your attitude, your vision. When you align with divine order, things that used to distract you lose their power. People who used to drain you no longer affect you. You become rooted, unshakable, not because the storm has ceased, but because your spirit has found its anchor. There is a divine rhythm to life that many miss because they are out of sync with the Spirit. When you align with God, you begin to walk in step with the cadence of heaven. There's a peace that accompanies you, a clarity that governs your choices, a boldness that shapes your language. But this doesn't come from random bursts of religious enthusiasm. It comes from consistency, from choosing daily to align your thoughts, your actions, your words with the truth of God's word. It comes from praying not just when you're desperate, but praying because you desire to be in agreement with the King of Kings. This kind of alignment requires honesty. You cannot bring pretense into the presence of God and expect alignment. He doesn't anoint masks. He doesn't bless the image you've curated for others. He blesses authenticity. He aligns truth. So your prayer must begin with confession, with repentance, with acknowledgement of where you veered off. Maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe it wasn't even rebellious, but misalignment, even in small degrees, if left unchecked, leads to detours that cost you time, energy, and purpose. And the good news is God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for submission. He doesn't expect you to have it all figured out. He just expects you to come, to bring your chaos, to lay down your anxiety, to release your idols, and to say, Lord, align me, not with my will, but with yours, not with my emotions, but with your truth, not with my timeline, but with your process. That kind of prayer shakes foundation. That kind of surrender makes demons tremble, because when a person gets aligned with heaven, everything around them has to respond. You have to understand, before the breakthrough comes the building. Before April can bring its blessings, you must be in position to receive them. And positioning begins in prayer, in quiet moments when no one's watching, in decisions that no one claps for, in small, sacred obediences that bring you back into right standing. That's where strength is born. That's where purpose is revealed. That's where peace settles in, not because circumstances change, but because you did. So when you pray before 1st April, you're not praying to inform God, you're praying to transform you. You're inviting him to reorder your life, to cleanse the clutter in your mind, to refocus your heart, to silence every voice that does not echo his. And this kind of alignment isn't just for a moment, it's a preparation for a season. Because what's coming requires a version of you that is grounded, rooted, and spiritually in rhythm with the kingdom. And the only way to access that version of you is to meet God in prayer, in truth, and in alignment. There are things you've buried, things you've locked away behind the doors of busyness and distraction, things that were too heavy to deal with, too painful to face, too overwhelming to unpack. But the moment is approaching when all that can no longer remain hidden. Before 1st April comes, God is calling you to confront what you've been avoiding, not because he wants to hurt you, but because he wants to heal you. Not because you're being punished, but because you're being prepared. The truth is, avoidance is spiritual poison. It corrodes your joy, weakens your authority, and silences your purpose. There is no victory without confrontation. The things you've left unresolved are not sitting still. They're quietly growing, quietly influencing the way you think, the way you love, the way you believe. And the enemy knows that as long as you don't confront it, he still has access to it. That secret fear you haven't named, that disappointment you never admitted, that shame you buried deep down, those things are shaping your present even if they come from your past. And prayer, if it is real, honest, and unfiltered, becomes the key to breaking that cycle. God does not call you to confront for condemnation. He calls you to confront for freedom, but freedom has a price. And often that price is your pride, your comfort, your illusion of control. To be free, you must first be brave. Brave enough to bring your weakness into the light. Brave enough to say, Lord, I can't fight this on my own anymore. Brave enough to let go of the image you've built and fall into the grace that restores. Prayer is not just a request. It's an admission that you're ready for war, and not a war with others, but a war within, a battle between what you become and who you were created to be. Avoidance wears the mask of peace, but it's really just prolonged chaos. It looks calm on the surface, but beneath your soul is wrestling. When you pray before 1st April, you are making a declaration in the spirit that you are tired of running, that you're no longer going to tiptoe around the things that need to be broken, healed, and rebuilt. You're ready to look in the mirror and say, enough. Enough with hiding, enough with pretending, enough with pushing forward while your heart is still carrying what it was never meant to bear alone. Confrontation through prayer is a spiritual act of courage. It means asking God to reveal what you couldn't see and to deal with what you couldn't handle. It's not about emotional venting. It's about spiritual reckoning. Lord, why am I still bound here? Why do I still fear that moment? Why does that name still sting? Why does that place still feel heavy? These are not weak questions. These are the questions that unlock transformation. Because God will never heal what you refuse to reveal. He cannot restore what you deny is broken. There's no power in polished prayers that skip past the real wounds. There is only power in prayers soaked in truth. And the truth is, before April can be different, you must be different. Not on the outside, on the inside. You've got to go back to the root, back to the decision, back to the moment, back to the lie you believed. And in prayer, you've got to lay it at the feet of the one who knew it all along. Not to inform him, but to free you. He's not surprised by your mess. He's not ashamed of your struggle. But he cannot move in what you cover. He moves in what you surrender. The fear of confrontation is rooted in the belief that it will destroy you. But that's a lie from hell. Confrontation in the spirit doesn't destroy, it delivers. It releases. It exposes the chains so they can be broken. It uncovers the cracks so they can be sealed. It opens up the wounds so they can finally breathe and begin to heal. And there is no shame in that. There is glory in it. There is power in being the kind of person who looks their pain in the eye and says, you don't own me anymore. So you've got to pray with courage, the kind of courage that says, I don't care what it costs, I want to be whole. The kind of courage that refuses to carry generational trauma into a new month. The kind of courage that says, God, strip me of every excuse and confront me with the truth. Not the truth that fits your narrative, the truth that sets you free, the truth that redefines you. The truth that pulls you out of cycles that your pride couldn't break, but your surrender can. This is why prayer must come before April, not to perform a ritual, not to say religious words, but to prepare for war. Because what you don't confront before this next chapter, you will carry into it. And what you carry into it will either bless you or burden you. The time for avoidance is over. The time for surface level peace is done. God is calling you to the depths. And the depths require boldness. The kind of boldness that doesn't flinch when the truth stings. The kind that stands still when the weight of healing gets heavy. The kind that knows whatever you're brave enough to confront, God is faithful enough to conquer. So now, with the weight of this moment pressing on your spirit and the whisper of God stirring in your soul, you cannot delay. You cannot treat this like another message to store away for later. This is the call before the crossing. This is the preparation before the promise. Before 1st April dawns, you're not waiting for a change to come from the outside. You're becoming the change on the inside through prayer, through alignment, through confrontation, and through the courage to obey. You're stepping into divine timing with a heart that's yielded and a spirit that's ready. Heaven is listening. God is waiting, and your next chapter is about to begin.